in this extravagance, and my books are extravagant, the smallness of life, that which is the thing I fear most, the smallness, will drop away.
Certain themes recur. There are searches in your books, there's separation in your books. There are powerful, dominant women on a Rabelaisian and gargantuan scale in your books. There's a great deal of cross-dressing in your books. And yet, the woman's body is described as a love object in several of your books. Is that a coincidence? Is that reality, or is that invention?
I think that we push ourselves forward as individuals and as a species by inventing what we want to be, by imagining ourselves as something other than we are. And that seems to me to be one of the virtues and the points of art, however you find it, that it tells you that there is more to it than this little life, than the daily round, than the everyday existence, that there is something larger, and it's not just for statesmen, heroes and great figures, it is for you in your own life, because art's not elitist, art leaves nobody out. As long as you're prepared to come to art with an open mind and do a little bit of work, the rewards are infinite. And it is for me, I think, an opportunity to stretch the ordinary material, the fabric of life, and make it more than it is, make the individuals who read my work perhaps a little bit more than they are, even if it's only for a while. And so I will use every device possible to bring that about, whether it's love, or whether it's war, whether it's history, whether it's passion. Whatever I think will act as a grappling hook for my reader, I will use.
When you adapted Oranges for the television, how necessary was it to change it?
When Oranges was adapted for the television by me, I had to go back to the book and read it again, which was dreadful. It's awful reading your own work, because all you were ever conscious of are the failures and the things that you did wrong. One of the things about developing is that you do become a better craftsman, and 10 years have passed and I'm a much better technician than I was. And so when I read Oranges, there were yawning gaps, I felt, and things that had just been written badly. You know, I think both Oranges and The Passion are in some ways rather like Wuthering Heights. They're not that well written, but they have an intensity and a power which cuts right through them, but they are a young person learning their craft.
Are you concerned to invent new forms? I mean, the novels and the books are not in the form of a conventional linear narrative. They jump around all over the place. Or are they actually more sophisticatedly arranged than that?
They're not linear, no. I'm not interested in a linear narrative, but I do try and write a spiral narrative, a narrative which is continually returning to itself, both thematically and as far as the images and the ideas are concerned, but primarily as far as the language is concerned. And this is nowhere clearer than in my new book, Art and Lies, because that occupies very large territory in it, and it has a sophisticated narrative which requires that the reader follows very closely the linguistic clues as much as the strain of ideas which run through it. And when you get to the end of Art and Lies, you have to see it in quite a different light to the one which was thrown upon it as you went along.
Would you call it a novel? Do you call that a novel?
No, I don't really call my work novels. They're called that by other people. I am a fiction writer, and I am trying to push into my fiction the discipline and the denseness of poetry. That seems to me to be a proper late 20th century challenge. But no, in so much as the novel is a 19th century idea, I do not write novels.
You have a very wide and a very refreshingly novel vocabulary. Where do you find these words?
I find these words in the dictionary. I'm a great dictionary lover, and I have the OED in full, not the horrible shrunk-up miniature version. And I have Johnson's dictionary, and I spend many, many hours going through the dictionary, delighting in words, and it's because I delight in them rather than care about them pedantically or even in any fashion of scholarship that I'm able to use them in my work, and they don't sound forced. But it seems to me if words are what you love, if words are your craft, then you are honour bound to have as many as possible in your tool chest.
Are words weapons?
Words are weapons. They're also love affairs. They always reach you on every possible front. They attack you from all sides simultaneously when well used. words work, but they need the discipline of the writer behind them, because you can't just string words together like so much washing on the line. You have to arrange them, and I cannot stress too highly the importance of craft.
In some of your books, your characters, as I said, appear to be searching for something. What are they searching for? Are they searching for to be joined to someone? Are they searching for a still place? Or are they fated always to adventure on?
I think we're all fated always to adventure on. I don't think there's any stopping. I think there's only a development, which is why I suspect there is an afterlife. I really can't believe this is it. It's so short. And in my books, people do go forward. They go forward out of the last page of the book as much as anything else. They still exist. They exist for me. They exist for other people. They are trans-time. They are beyond time. They're not caught in it. And I don't think the human spirit is caught in it either. I mean, let us not be caught. And art is a way of opening the cage door and saying, fly.
You say somewhere that there's a choice between staying with a ready-made world that may be safe but which is also limiting, or pushing forward into a personal place, an unknown and untried. Do we all have that choice?
Yes, we do all have that choice. Everybody in their life, large or small, whether it's mundane or marvellous, comes often to the frontiers of common sense, where they are required to retreat into a world that they know and is safe, or to push forward into a world which is unknown. And those choices get harder as we get older, because there are small threads that bind us throughout our lives, and suddenly you think, I want to change everything, and you can't because you're caught. And that's why it's important to make real decisions, serious decisions, early on and through your life when those challenges arise. And I hope that my books offer something of the courage and the strength needed to make those moral choices.
Is there a self of you beneath the writer? Is there a private you?
There certainly isn't a me that isn't Jeanette Winterson, the writer. I am caught up in that. I am that. People don't always find their way forward in life, but this is what I am. This is what I am here for. This is everything to me. It is my blood, my bone. It is my body, it's my breath. It's my daily exercise, it's my pleasure. And yes, it is my passion.
Are you a vulnerable person?
I'm vulnerable in so much as I am very open. I could not do my work if I wasn't open. I must always be open to experience and to the natural world. I think Walter Pater was right when he said failure is to form habits. And one of the worst habits is to become dead to your surroundings, to be so used to everything that you no longer notice it, that you no longer notice the face of the person you love, that perhaps you've lived with for 20 years, that you no longer notice the things that you bought with such excitement and decorated your house with, that you no longer notice the fields and the natural world. That's deadness, and the artist cannot be dead. And the artist is always arranging things in a way to say to the onlooker, see, here it is. It's what you thought you knew, but it's different, isn't it? It's not the shock of the new, it's the shock of the familiar, arranged so that we can actually see it. And that is very vulnerable. So in that way, yes, I suppose I must be.
Are you a violent person?
I get very angry. There's plenty in the world to be angry about. But I think if you do have a temper, and I do, you must be very disciplined about that anger, because it's a destructive force as well as a positive one. So I try and channel it into my work. But over my typewriter, I do have a little text which says, rant is out.
What have been the greatest ecstasies of your life?
If I said what had been the greatest ecstasies, it might presume that there were perhaps to be no more. But the truth is that it is a daily ecstasy for me. It is ecstasy for me to be able to do this work, to be alive, to live with the woman that I love. I am surrounded by good gifts. If I were not happy, I would be churlish, because there is so much about my life which is wonderful. And it is that daily ecstasy that keeps me pushing on with this work, because I believe it comes from that.
What have been your worst experiences?
My worst experiences? I think my worst experiences were early experiences, and they were to do with having to leave behind everything that I knew, my own frontiers of common sense, to leave behind the church, to leave behind my family, to leave behind the people that I loved, to leave behind the framework that I had been brought up in, and to set out again. That was very difficult. And I've had some really terrible love affairs. But I'm settled now, and I hope, I've been with my partner 5 years, I hope I'll be with her for 50.
Without wishing to disrupt that is precisely the stillness that perhaps that earlier you were rejecting.
It is a stillness, yes. It's a stillness, but it's not a passivity, and there is a difference. If I ever thought that I was forming habits, that I was settling into a comfortable armchair, I would surely find a way to blast myself out of it.
What do you fear most?
I fear mediocrity. I fear the settling. Not only settling down, but settling for less, settling for second best, settling for the easy option, making life small. Instead of noticing how glorious it is. We talked about ecstasy, and it is there every day, it is there every moment, if we can but see it, if we can but have it. It's there for us. Suffering is not part of the human condition, and I think it's very important to reject it in your own life, because anybody who reads Dante will know the special circle of hell reserved for those who willfully lived in sadness.
You had a huge success very early. Was that dangerous?
Success is dangerous. Yes, it was very unbalancing, it was very unsettling. And I had nobody I could trust at that time with Oranges, and nobody with whom I felt absolutely secure. It was a rocky period for me, and I nearly lost sight of my own way, and I couldn't hear my own voice anymore. I think that very often happens to writers, and I wrote a comic book called Boating for Beginners, which is great fun, but it wasn't worth writing. Fortunately, it only took 2 weeks, so that cheers me up. And I had a contract for another book in a sort of similar vein, which I had to throw away. And then I wrote The Passion.
You said, and I think I've said more than once, that writers divide into priests and prophets. Could you
Yes.
explain that distinction?
Well, it was something I wrote in Oranges, and it's a little bit rhetorical, actually, because it was really to do with those writers who use the well-known words and tread the well-known paths and simply offer a kind of magnified version of what we already are, which is comfortable enough to look at and solid, strong in a particular way. And then there are the writers who want to challenge all that and say we must have it differently, that the purpose of the world is not to describe it but to change it. And I do believe that. I think art is a changeful thing. It is metaphor. I think it's transformation. And I do not want to be one of those writers who becomes a grand old woman or a grand old man and settles back into a life of letters where everyone says wonderful, because then I won't be challenging anybody anymore. As long as I'm still being targeted and pummeled, as I often am in the press, I know that I'm on the right track.
You say that prophets cry out because they're troubled by demons. Are you troubled by demons?
Yes, I am troubled by demons, but not the same demons that used to trouble me. I have got my sanity back, which is something, because I had...
When did you lose it?
Well, in my rackety early life, it was quite hard to hold on to everything. You can't hold on to everything. Some things have to give. My mental equilibrium was not always what it is now, because I left home early because I had to fight my way into Oxford, and because I had no support. And normally people cannot let go of everything and forge through on their own. And I've always had to do that. And there were certain things in my early life and upbringing which were damaging to me. And you have to heal yourself. It is important to be healed, to be well. It's not enough to go through the rest of your life bearing your wounds and polishing your scars and saying, poor me, what can I do? And for me, to be well, to be sane and to be well, has been a significant achievement.
Each book exists entirely in its own world, its own right. But what's the single most important thing that you are saying to us in your writing?
If there was a single thing, I don't think there is, but if I wanted to hone it down, we would come back again to the point of challenge, to say that there is no lot that is so great and so burdensome that it cannot be changed. And I do believe in the transforming power of art. I believe that it can unlock locked lives and that it can quicken the dead places. I put all of my faith in it, all of my trust in it, in art. And I want to bring it to people and say, this is for you. It's not rarefied, it's not academic, it's alive. It's the most alive thing you will probably ever touch and feel, because it comes from a vortex, a great core of passion in the artist, of whatever kind.
Do you sense from readers' response that you are communicating that?
Yes, I have a huge mailbag. We get endless letters, and the push of those letters always is that the work is speaking to them, which is important. Again, this question of intimacy. It speaks to them one-to-one, even though there are tens of thousands of people reading it, and that people have been able to use it as a rod and a staff to move on, to move forward, to break through. So I think I've given them some dynamite and also some salve.
That must make you very happy.
It does make me happy, but it's a duty. I must not fail. Perhaps I'm a missionary after all.